Hey guys, in this video we're going to get this old Stihl weed whacker running and operating like it should, and we're also going to be bringing it up to the 21st century with some new technology that I'll get to in a bit. So here's the unit itself. It's a Stihl FS 36. It's pretty old and it doesn't run that well, so I thought I'm not even going to try messing with the carburetor screws because I bet the diaphragm and the carburetor is already shot, and we're going to go ahead and replace that with a new one that I'll get to in a bit. So first of all, let's drain the gas out of it. Or I already did that, and so now we have to get this cover off of here. So let's get to doing that. So the first thing we have to do is remove this choke knob here to get the cover off first. So it's a flathead screw, so take this out. It should come out just like this. That pops off, and there's the air filter, which we'll take out as well. And yeah, this thing leaks gas, so we're gonna have to fix the carburetor. And yeah. Okay, so after you have removed the air filter, you have to take out the 4 screws holding this white plastic cover on. So there's one here, one there, and then there's 2 more on the same spot on the other side. So I'm going to use my impact, and it's a T27 bit, by the way. There's one. I'll pick it up in a minute. And there's 2. And I'll do the other side off camera. Oh, and you also have to take out the 2 bolts right here that are holding on the carburetor. It's the same size bit, by the way. Okay, so once all 6 screws are removed, now you can pull off the cover. Just like this. And this thing was leaking gas for a while, because you can see how dirty it is in there and down there. So we're gonna go and degrease this after we disassemble the rest of it and get ready for cleaning. Okay, so here's a better view of what we're working on. So, so now that we have the back cover removed, we're going to remove the carburetor. So all we have to do for that is, I'm gonna get another glove on first. So to remove the carburetor, we're going to have to pull it out like this, and then take off these 2 fuel lines. So I like to use these curved pliers. It just helps a lot more when doing, oh my, wait a sec. Okay, so we have to remove both of the fuel lines, and like I just said, these curved pliers make it a lot easier. So this one came off, and we're gonna have to take off the other one. So just pull up like this, and it should come off. There we go. Now we're going to set the carburetor off to the side, and meanwhile we're going to replace all the fuel system components, like the fuel lines, filter, and primer bulb with a new one, because I want this thing to run like brand new. So yeah, and we're also going to remove the fuel tank and degrease inside and behind it, because it leaks a lot and it's dirty. So the next step is we're going to take out the old fuel lines. Okay, so to take out our gas lines, what we have to do is take off the gas cap like this, and then we have to reach through here with these pliers, and we have to squeeze the grommet out of the tank. Here, I'll show you guys what I'm looking at here. So if you can see in there's a grommet right there, and there's the fuel line. So what we have to do is squeeze the grommet and pull the fuel line out at the same time to get the whole thing out. And I've just realized it's going to be a lot easier to do it with the fuel tank removed. So we're going to take out the fuel tank. And to do that, first we have to remove the primer bulb out of this bracket. So just get in here with your pliers and squeeze the 2 tabs. Then it should pop out. Just like this. And then we're going to pull it out of there. Don't need that anymore. And then we're going to pull out the fuel tank and put the gas cap back on so it doesn't leak any fuel. It might be in there still. So there we go. We can get rid of these old bits of fuel line as well, because they're all rock hard. So this would just pull out like this, maybe. You know what? We're going to leave it on, because yeah, we're going to leave it on, so that's fine. Anyway, so now we have to remove the grommets. Sorry about all this confusion. So now we're going to take out the grommets with our pliers. So I'm just going to pull this push it in from this side, maybe. There we go. I don't know if you can see it popping out there, and it might be easier to get a slot screwdriver in there as well behind it and just pull it out. Yeah, there we go. So there we go. That's what the grommet should look like when it comes out. And now I'm going to repeat the process for this one, but this time we're going to have to pull the fuel filter line out of here and take the filter off, because the hole in the tank isn't big enough for the fuel filter to pass through. So here's the old fuel filter that I pulled out, and it actually looks perfect, so we're going to reuse it when we install the new fuel lines. So I've decided, so after we have the fuel lines out, I looked around this thing and I realized that it's really dirty. And since I really don't want to take off this bracket to get the gas tank out, I'm going to clean the fuel tank off with some of this brake clean. So what I'm going to do is just spray the brake clean and hold this rag like underneath and catch all the mess that spills out. So I'm gonna go like this, and make sure that you're wearing your safety glasses when you do this, because if you don't want to get it in your eye. There we go, all clean. Now I'm just gonna wipe it off, and we can put our new fuel lines back in. Okay, so here are the gas lines I got. They're from Amazon. They're pretty cheap. So what we're gonna do is open them up here. And it actually comes with 4 new grommets, not just 2. That's kind of handy. And the first thing we're going to do is, we're going to push in our 2 new grommets, and then we're going to cut the fuel line to the proper length, and then install the fuel filter. Okay, so to get our new grommets in, what we're going to have to do is go from this side here, and so orient it like this way, and push it in just like this. And you might want to get your needle nose pliers and kind of go around the edge. Whoa. And you're going to want to go around the edge like this and kind of squeeze it in and then push it in. And there we go. First one's in. Now I'm going to get the second one, and we'll go from the bottom for that one. So you can grab it like this with the pliers and then just kind of go in the hole there and line it up, and then just push her right on in. These can be a bit tricky sometimes. Like, this is my first time doing it, but it's not that bad. So anyway, they're in already. So once they're in, it should look something like this, and make sure you push them in like this, just to double check that they're actually fully seated. Now what we're going to do is we're going to get our new fuel line, which is here, and we're going to cut it to the correct length, so that it reaches the bottom of the tank over here from the carburetor. So what we're going to have to do is just unwind this little spool of it like this. And I'm going to make my pieces a little bit long. That's fine. So what we're going to do is the bottom one is going to be the fuel filter line, and the top one is going to be, actually no, the top one's going to be the filter, and the bottom one's going to be for the primer bulb. So just imagine this going down here from the top, then over to the carburetor. So that's like over there, kind of. So I'm going to cut this one about right there. And I'll use a pair of side cutters to do it. And to help get it into the tank better, I'm going to cut a angle on the end like this, because it has to go through that grommet, which is a little difficult. So now what you can do is open the gas tank, and then what we're going to do is, let me lower you guys down actually. Okay, so what I'm going to do is feed it in from this side, and you're going to have to watch it go through that side of the grommet. And we're going to, once it goes through, we're going to pull it with our needle nose pliers. And if you want, you can add a little bit of WD-40 to the line. I might actually use some bit of oil. So I'm going to put some oil on the line and then just run it through the grommet, which makes it a lot easier. All right, don't know if you can tell, but it's pretty much, yep, it's through there now. So now we're going to pull this out of the tank with our pliers, and then install the fuel filter back on. So we're going to pull a bit of length from the tank here, like that, and then we're going to pull the line out of the filler neck. Then we're going to cut off the angle piece with our side cutters. And now what we're going to do is reinstall the old fuel filter. I did spray it off with some brake cleaner just to double check it was nice and clean, which it was. So now we're going to push this on here, just like, it's a little bit difficult, but you can do it. So push it on just like this. Make sure that it gets fully over the little kind of barb there. So push it on like this. Almost there. That's good enough right there. So now we're going to pull most of this in the tank, and so now we're going to push this back in the tank, and it should go right to the bottom. And there we go. It's at the bottom. So there we go. Now we're going to install the other fuel lines and the new primer bulb. Okay, so for the primer bulb, you're going to have one line that goes into the tank and then another one that goes from the primer bulb to the carburetor. So I've determined that the longer stem on the primer bulb, that one has to go into the fuel tank. So to measure out that one for length, I'm going to basically set this where it would be there, and then cut off a little bit of extra because I have to make a notch, remember, to get it in the grommet. So we're going to go about this length from the primer bulb into the fuel tank. And then the other one has to go from the primer bulb to the carburetor. So we're going to imagine this being in the hole there. And then just get this and bring it over here to the carburetor spot. So that's like, maybe like right here. And that's going to be long enough. So now I'm going to install the primer bulb, and I'll show you guys some tips and tricks. So again, for the one that goes into the fuel tank, you're going to want to cut a angle on the end of it like this. And then to get it in the grommet, sorry, my tripod sucks here. Push it in the grommet like this, and then it should just pull out the other side with the pliers once you've got it through the grommet. And this one doesn't have to go to the bottom because all it does is push air into the fuel tank. It doesn't really do anything that cool. And I'm also going to put a bit of oil on the end of it to make it slide in the grommet a lot easier. Okay, so I'm going to push this through the grommet here, and it should come out the other side. And I don't know if you can see that, but it's starting to. I'm going to take it off the primer to make it easier. So now we're going to push this in there. And it might be easier to get your pliers and kind of just push it through and then pull it out this side here. And there we go. The primer line is on. Now we can install the primer bulb into the little hole here and then hook up the other primer line that goes to the carburetor. And it's a good idea to leave these a bit longer first, and then you can always trim them to length if you need to after. Okay, so now that we have our fuel lines all intact and hooked up, now we're going to move on to the carburetor. So let's go over to the workbench and go clean that out. Okay, so the first thing we're going to do with the new carburetor, or with the carburetor, is we're going to spray it off with brake cleaner because it's covered in dirt and oil, and I don't want to, quite frankly, I don't want to deal with that. And we're also going to spray off this little cover too for the air filter. And make sure you're wearing your safety glasses. I am, so let's go like this and spray it all off, get it nice and clean. So I'm going to continue this step until it's perfect, until it's nice and clean. Okay, so now it's the fun part, and we can rebuild the carburetor. So the new piece of technology I was referring to earlier is this here new diaphragm. And what's so special about this diaphragm is that it's not rubber like the one we're going to take out of here. This is actually a really, really thin stainless steel metal coil. And what this lets us do is this will basically never wear out because it's metal and it will not harden. And instead of rubber, it comes with two very thin plastic diaphragms that basically sandwich the metal spring. And I'll show you that once we open this, but I thought that was pretty cool. And this was a bit more than the normal carburetor kit, but I thought, since hey, this is a nice, like, still good quality weed whacker, and I really like it, and I want it to run at its best, I thought I might as well put some extra money into it, so I got that. So what we're going to do first is take off this plate here and remove the metering diaphragm and replace it with this one. And I didn't even bother getting a pumping diaphragm for this side because I'm 90% sure it'll be good, but we still will blow it out with air compressor and clean it out. So the first thing we're going to do is get a Phillips screwdriver and remove these 4 screws that hold on this cover here. So there's one, and you might want to get a dish like this to put the parts in because you don't want to lose them. So there's 1, here's 2, 3. So now we're going to take the screws out of here. So there's 3 and 4. Now we're going to pop off this cover. And be careful because you don't want to wreck the gasket that's underneath it. So you might want to get a slot screwdriver, or a screwdriver like this, and hit this. There we go, that pops off. And here's the old diaphragm. So as you can see, there's still gas in there. And this one is actually pretty good. Like, it's still pliable. As you can see, it still moves, but I thought I'd replace it anyway, just for preventative maintenance. And here's what the cover looks like on the other side. It looks pretty good. So now we're going to take off the diaphragm and see what lies beneath it. So here we go. Go nice and slow. ASMR. There we go. And it looks actually really good. So what I'm going to do next is we're going to take off this side, because I want to make sure that the inlet screen from this, because this is the fuel inlet, where this is where the gas goes in the carburetor. And once I remove this, you're going to see a screen in there that might be plugged up. So I want to take this off and make sure that's not plugged up. So we're going to unscrew this. There we go. Gotta loosen it. There we go. So take this out. And then push the throttle to make it easier. Then this should pop off, and that looks perfect. See, there's the screen I was referring to. Sorry about the bad lighting. It's just in there, and you should be able to put fuel through there, and it should come out the other side. So I'm going to move this out of the way, because I'm going to spray the brake cleaner through here, and I don't want to get brake clean on this, because if you get brake cleaner on this, it will harden the diaphragm and make it not work. So I'm going to go like this, spray at the inside, and there we go, all clean. Now we're going to reinstall our new diaphragm here. Okay, so now I've opened up the new diaphragm and gasket set, and this is the instructions that come with it. So I didn't know this before, but it actually comes with new gaskets. So what we're going to have to do is remove the old one, so it should just peel off. And if it doesn't, we're going to have to scrape it off. But this one just peels right off like this. So that's good. And it also comes with this new little needle seat here, which I'm not sure if we're going to have it, if we're going to install it or not, but we have to read these and make sure if we do. So that's what this gauge is for. Okay, so I read the instructions really quick, and it basically says to remove this old metering lever here and install the new one. And I'm going to do this off camera because it is very difficult to do it with a lot of stuff in the way, and it's also difficult to get the spring back under it. So I'm going to do it off camera, so you guys don't have to listen to me suffer and do it. So I'll turn you back on when I'm ready to install the new gasket. Okay, so now our new metering lever is installed. So basically all I had to do to take out the old one was remove this little Phillips screw right there, take this assembly out, slide off the old one, slide on the new one, push it back down, and install the screw. And what this gauge is actually for is you rest it against the top of the carburetor here, and there's different markings. So this one says WTB, that one's not ours, this one's not ours, all these ones over here, that doesn't apply to us, but the spiral one does, because we're using the spiral diaphragm gasket kit. And what we have to do is slide this over the carburetor and make sure that our metering lever touches the top of this little indentation here when we go like this. And as you can see, it is touching. So that is perfect right there for us, and we're all good. Now we can do the fun part and install this here. Before we reinstall this, I'm going to reinstall the other side cover to make it easier just to work on it so it doesn't tip over quite easily. So go like this, make sure that the gasket is on the surface here. I'm actually going to spray this out really quick. Alright guys, now we can install a new gasket set. So I have the instructions here, and it says to hold the carburetor, or hold these, so the paper clip goes like this way, then you're just going to like pull this out and it should install itself. Alright, so with our carburetor, we have to hold this like that. I'm going to hold with my finger on there like this and pull the sleeve out just like that. And I'm going to quickly get the cover and install that back on there, because I don't want this to mess up and fall off. So hold it down like that with your fingers and quickly get the screws back in so that they don't come out again. Get my screwdriver here, so go like this. I'm going to go crossways, and I'm still going to hold this because I don't know what's going to happen if I were to let go. And also, the instructions I was reading it also says start the screws at one turn, so we're going to have to maybe mess with those. Or I might leave it and we'll mess with them once we get the machine running. I think that's actually the better idea, because I don't like to mess with the screws unless I know how it runs. And right now I don't really have a good idea of how this machine runs. So that's why we're going to leave the screws until we get it running. And then we might mess with them. Have some fun. So right now we're on the last screw, and then we can reinstall the carburetor and air filter and things like that. So I'm gonna get this back in. Sorry if this video's been kind of weird. I just haven't made one in a while, and I'm not used to. And I have to get used to being behind the camera again. It's kind of different. So anyway, there we go. There's our carburetor, all rebuilt. Now we're gonna go take it back to the weed whacker and reinstall it. Okay, so now we're gonna reinstall our carburetor. So as it went before, this one is the fuel filter line. So it's going to go to the plastic port over here. So just like this. There we go. And we're also gonna have to hook up our throttle. And on this one, I can actually kind of see where the linkage was before. That's pretty handy. And I'm gonna hook it up in the correct hole. And this line over here goes to this port over here. Like that, and then this goes basically in there. So now I'm going to hook it up to the correct hole, because there's many. Let's go like that, twist it, and then it should go on. And then might have to push this up a bit, and then it should slide on there. Anyway, okay, so I have the linkage hooked up, and I'm just going to squeeze the trigger to make sure that the throttle actuates all the way, which it does. Now off camera, I'm going to clean the side cover, which is over there on the workbench. And then we're going to reinstall it and then see if this thing runs. Alrighty, so now I've washed our cover off, and now I'm going to reinstall it. So when you put the carburetor back on this model, make sure the choke is either on or fully off, because it's vital to line up the choke knob. I'll show you that in a minute. So push this on like this, and it actually helps you get the carburetor bolts through the cover first, like this. Then hold it with your finger, and then line up the carburetor on the engine, and then push the bolts through the carburetor. And it turns out this line actually popped off, so push it back on. Actually, I'm going to shorten this real quick. Okay, so after many a try, I finally have the cover back on. Now we're going to reinstall the screws here. So I'm going to do them most of the way with the impact for the carburetor ones, and then I'll just do the rest of the way by hand. There we go. Now I'm going to get the other ones. So we've got these 3, 4. So here we go on this side. There's one. There. I actually just dropped the other one, so I'll pick it up and put it on off camera. There we go. Alright boys, so now I got some fresh gas here, and now we're going to gas it up and see how it runs with the new carburetor kit. I'm actually quite anxious to see how it works. And this is 50-to-1 non-ethanol gas with stabilizer. And there we go, that's pretty much full. And I also have a small flathead screwdriver to see if we have to tune anything as well. So I guess I'll keep it rolling from back here. And now we're gonna see if it'll start. So I'm gonna move the gas can way over here. Got the screwdriver. And now we're gonna see if it'll start. So there, turn it on, prime it a bunch. Here we can see the new primer will get filled with the gas. That's always kind of cool to see that, the clear one. Put the choke. Almost. Okay, let's see if it'll start. Okay, now let's see if we can tune it up to make it actually run like halfway good. So yeah. Sort of, but it shut off. Let's see if it'll start back up again. More feel idle, I think. There. Runs good. Now let's see if it'll start up when it's warm. Sweet. Alrighty guys, well, I would call that a success on the Stihl FS 36 vintage weed whacker. There it is again. So if you liked this video, sorry if it was a little bit like kind of fast paced and out of order, but anyway, if you liked it, give it a thumbs up, hit the subscribe button, and see you guys next time for more cool weed whacker content and lawnmower content and whatever else small engines I find to work on. Thanks for watching.